everyone, welcome to Cancer Healing Journey Talks. Myself Shruti Dapke from Community Outreach Team of Zenonco.io and Love Heals Cancer. Cancer Healing Journey Talks helps cancer survivors and caregivers to share their journey with vast number of survivors and caregivers who have traveled or been traveling through this journey. This can inspire and motivate them for their faster recovery as well. Firstly, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Ms. Carla. She's a breast cancer survivor. I'm happy that you're here with us today to share your journey with us. Over to you, ma'am. Please start with your introduction.
Thank you so much for having me. Well, hi everyone. My name is Carla. I'm 36 years old. I was recently diagnosed in the month of March 2021. It's been quite a journey, as I call it, the journey in between the journey of life. I was diagnosed on the course of doing a lot of medical testing because I wanted to get pregnant this year, which was a major blunt surprise for me to realize I had cancer, and I was a stage 2 limit, stage 3. And even though it was really hard to hear the word cancer, I realized right away in that moment that it was just supposed to happen, and I was just about to receive the biggest lesson in life, and I was going to learn more about me that I never did in this whole 30 past years. I think the journey started last year, actually, when I discovered the lump in my breast. It was the month of June, and you know how they all tell women you should do the every day to touch your breast.
Yeah.
It's like, but you never do it. You just forget about it. It's like not systematically. Maybe you remember once or twice a year, and you're like, and you don't do it properly. You don't lay down. You don't really go through it. And I remember, well, I was in a hotel and I was just looking myself in the mirror, and I remember, oh my God, I haven't touched my breasts in forever. And then I just touched them, and then I felt something, and I'm like, holy fucking shit. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
And then I just went into the bed and I placed myself in the right position, and I touched it, and it was there with a little lump. And I freak out. Of course, I went to Google. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? I called a doctor online. I had an online session. He told me, you don't need to worry right now. Just make an appointment as soon as you go back to your city. And I did that. 2 weeks later, I was 1 week later, it was like super fast. I called and they gave me like a very, very fast appointment. And then I remember the radiologist just telling me, you're too young. This is nothing. It should be just a cyst, because women get this when they have their period. And I was like, are you sure? Like, it's like, it wasn't there before. Like, yeah, no, don't worry. And then I asked, like, well, should I come back? When should I come back? Like, there's a follow-up or something. I remember his word telling me, don't you worry if it keeps growing so much that it became so unbearable for you to have it in the breast, or it became painful, then you come. Otherwise, don't bother. You're just gonna stay there or maybe disappear or whatever. And when a doctor tells you that, you just believe them.
Yes.
And then you just go home and you keep your life. And that's what I did. I kept my life. And it wasn't until the end of the year that I touched it. I was like, am I a bit crazy? Maybe this is getting a bit bigger or something like that. And by the month of February, it was bigger, but it was not that big, as he said, and it was not painful at all. So I was like, well, am I crazy? I'm maybe overreacting, I don't know. And then I went back to do all the testing for the fertility. And then I told my gynecologist, hey, would you mind checking this? Because I don't know, it doesn't feel right. Like, I'm a person who's very in touch with their body. I practice yoga, I practice meditation, and something just felt a bit off about it. I was like, can you just check this just to be
right, to be sure.
Not to be sure. That's just an echo. It's like, yeah, sure, no worries. And then it was the 22nd of March that I went for that echo. And I still remember the face of the radiologist. This time it was a woman. He just told me, are you in a hurry? We would like to do more testing right now. We're preparing another room to do a mammography. I'm like, okay. But I was like, I'm very positive, and I'm like really trying to live my life as like, I'm not like about to cry about over the milk that haven't spilled yet. So I'm like, I haven't say anything wrong, so I'm just gonna keep my positive mind, and I'm just gonna keep hoping for the best, even though their faces were like, please don't go to the exam room.
Right.
Okay. They did the mammograph, and they're like, we really need you to come tomorrow to take some biopsies. And I could read her faces, they were worried, but again, they haven't said anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna pollute my mind, I'm just gonna keep wishing for the best. And of course, you have this little thought on the
Right.
mind, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then that was the first time that the word started appearing in my mind, like cancer, 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 cancer. You're like, oops, shut up, don't worry, it's not there yet. I went for the biopsy, and that was a major test. I think it's very invasive for a woman to be like, really, they take a piece of your breast, and that's part of your womanhood. So that really affected me. I live abroad, and my family's not with me, and I just went like for normal checkups. I went on my own, and now I realize that it's a process. Even in that part, in the testing, it's a process that you shouldn't be on your own. You should be surrounded and held by other people. Anyway, 2 days later, I went to my gynecologist to get the results of the fertility, and then he just he greets me with, well, so change of plans, we need to do some egg freezing. And I'm like, what? Yeah, the system is very broken, and doctors don't have many times that empathy to really relate to patients. And he just, nobody told me anything until he just break the news, like, you cannot have kids right now, you have to freeze your eggs. And I'm like, do you know anything? I don't know, can you share the news with me? It will be nice. It's like, there's no conclusive reports, but it doesn't look good. And I'm like, can you speak up, please? And then they kept me in this loop for like almost 2 hours until I went to see another doctor. And they finally, he didn't want to break the news to me alone. And then I had to call someone. And in that moment, I really felt like, okay, if they don't want to tell me anything, because I don't know, I have like 2 days to live or something like that. It was like the doctors were making this huge thing. And I'm like, if there is cancer, why they just don't say it? And I think that's the first time I realized there's this big word like cancer. People don't say it. People are scared of it. It has such a negative impact. And yes, it's a disease, but we have like put it so there with this bad negative energy that people don't say it. And I think it's even worse when they don't, because I was going crazy in my mind. When I finally got a friend to sit with me, and the doctor finally speak up, and he say, well, it's cancer. And I'm like, I was kind of relieved. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, thank you for telling me. So I have cancer. So what's next? Like, what kind, like, it's too bad. Like, how many days I have to live? And he was like, well, we need to get the biopsy and this and that. But yeah, normally it's chemo and surgery, or surgery and chemo. But then like, so I'm not gonna die in the next few days. So honestly, it was such good news after all that waiting without knowing. And I think that's very horrible when they just send you home. And I've been in these online communities, like with other women, and they just go and they tell them it doesn't look good, and now go home for 3 weeks because we're gonna do all the testing, and just go and get crazy. It's like the system is very broken, like in the medical healthcare system, general terms. Since then, it was a crazy marathon, especially when you're a woman and you're under 40 and you haven't had kids, so you want to have more kids. Then it's the fertility issue, then it's like all the testing. And there was like, I felt that I was running like 3 marathons, because I also didn't want to just to go into the medical normal path. I believe in the alternative healing, and I believe in alternative medicine. And I started.
Can you explain a little more about that?
On the what?
On just what you said. You said like alternative something. You said right now. Was that a different kind of treatment?
Okay, the treatment. They couldn't start the treatment until I freeze my eggs, because I'm in the still haven't had any kids. Yes. So for me, that was buying me time without the chemo for trying all my alternative healing. So for the first months, I was basically doing all the appointments to freeze my eggs. I was injecting hormones, and it was very, very tough. At the same time, I was going to all the MRIs, echoes, more biopsies, because they took like 3 more biopsies, and starting to do my own alternative healing path. I'm very, very lucky. I'm surrounded by amazing therapists here in Barcelona. I started doing bioresonance. I started doing acupuncture. I started doing, there is this, I don't know, like it's a new thing that they call here biodescodification. Is basically go like inside and like link the emotions that are related to why you develop certain kind of diseases, especially cancer. So I started this beautiful journey of reconnecting with myself and understanding what was the message that my body was giving me. Like my body,
like signals or something which body gives us.
Yes, even like for the first moment when he said cancer, I'm like, okay, so you're screaming to me something. So maybe it's time for me to listen if you're screaming it with the cancer. So let's do this. And for the moment zero, I was just so grateful that it was arriving in my life in this moment, that I'm able to look at it from this perspective and be thankful about it. I know there's like a lot of language related with cancer that talk about fighting and defeating. And for me, it's been more about like, it is part of my body. My body is producing this cancer. So it's inherently is part of myself. And I decided to approach it from a perspective of love, because my body is giving me this message. And I'm like, if I'm not listening now, I mean, I just go to chemo, I just take it out, my body's going to start signaling somewhere else. And for me, like really healing what's going on. I'm a very healthy person. Like my friends were like, oh my God, we are all fucked if you got cancer. Like if you are like the healthiest person that we know and you get cancer. And as I tell everybody, it's not just the body. It's just not a disease that comes from this physical body. I think it also comes from your spiritual and your emotional one. It's a mix of everything. Like we are very complex as human beings. We're not just this physical mere body. And then I started like, yes, like even more healthy with nutrition, with supplements. As a health coach, I make like a meal plan for myself to reinforce like my immune system. I got like the best supplements that I could find on the market. I did a lot of research. Then I was still like freezing my eggs and pushing chemo, and doing all sort of therapies to reboost my body, to give me more energy, to really build up in case I was doing chemo. I never say I won't do chemo. I always say like, I would love not to do chemo, but if I want to do it, I want to do it on my own terms. It took me 3 months to get into my own terms. My doctor,
like to be ready to go for the treatment of chemo.
Yes, to decide to go for chemo, it took me 3 months. My doctors were freaking out because my cancer was a very aggressive one. Well, is a very aggressive one.
But to take that decision, yeah, you need to be very bold, I think. I mean, not every person can take this decision, because it is either to like, it is death on one side and it is like our life. So I think you're very brave.
Yes. And I changed many doctors because they were telling me I'm the doctor. And I'm like, but it's my body. It's my body. And I know it better. I'm sorry, but I do know it better. It took me years to get to know my body, to get to listen to my body. And my body is telling me to wait a little bit more. And I'm a very smart person, and I did a hell of a research. And I went to see the top doctor in Barcelona. He's one of the tops of the world for cancer. I pay a fortune to go to see him, but I was like, I need to at least have this opinion. And then he told me almost exactly the same that my regular doctor. And I'm like, and then he asked me like, do you work in medical field? And I'm like, no, why? Like, because you're so well informed. I'm like, of course, it's my life, it's my body. I want to be involved. And that's another click that I have in this journey. First one was the blessing, like this is happening for a reason, just listen to it. The second one was like, everybody just go and just like delegates this into doctor, like you do. And then I was like, it was also a doctor who told me not to worry about this. So that created a little like, yeah, I do have trusting issues with doctors. Like, I think I have a reasonable, a very compelling reason when they told me to go home with cancer. So I second, like, I asked them, and why this study and not this other study, because I read the studies. And yeah, with that, the doctor, I finally didn't, he was nice, but he was very not human. He was like, you're a patient, and like, that's it. I'm like, it's my life, and I'm gonna let you put poison into my body. And like, I wasn't comfortable. And yeah, universe has an amazing way to work. I connected with other people with cancer, and one of them recommended me her doctor. And the way she did it, it was like, I just sent him a WhatsApp, and this is his number, and then you can just text him. I'm like, I tell him I can just text your oncologist, and then what? Like, normally they're like email and like, write to me, and then when I reply to you, or my secretary is gonna reply to you. And I'm like, okay. I was very like, what's this? Then I text him like, hi, I'm like this friend of this friend, blah, blah. Like, hi, yes, she told me about you. How are you? So tell me, do you have tests you have done? Like, yes, I have. Send them right away by email. Like, this is my email. Like, okay, I send them. And like 5 minutes later, he's like, don't you worry. I check everything. I have this day available. When are you going to come to see me? And I'm like, who are you? And then he sent me these emojis with hearts and like kisses and like hugs and like, I got you, don't you worry, we're gonna do this together. And I'm like, I want this guy to be my doctor. Like, completely. I felt like a person, not just like one more number on the list of a patient. And I think that's very important for you, at least if you're gonna give yourself into medical care, that you trust that person and that you feel that there is a commitment over there. So I started working with this new doctor, and then he was very respectful, and he understood from the moment zero that I was not just going to follow instructions like this. I need to understand. And he just said the first time 2 hours, and I knew everything already, but he just sat with me and like, okay, ask me. You look like you're a smart ass and you read everything, but just ask me. I'm going to reply all your questions. And then he explained me all why he was going to treatment and which studies he was referring. And just the fact that he took the time, I was like, okay, I think we can do this. I'm going to sign with you. And but I also explained that I was not willing to start chemo right away, that I was still needing some time. And then we negotiated. I negotiated with my doctor. I was pushing by some date, and he was pushed by another one. So we commit in the middle ground. I accept to do more testing because he wanted to get more information about the tumor before starting the chemo. And since I wanted more time, he was like, let's use this time, take this drug that is not very invasive. I was on tamoxifen for 15 days. And then he did another echo, another biopsy. But then I felt okay with the fact that he was giving me medical care, but I was also having the time to go. I went and I retreat by myself. I went on my own to have a like meditation time to really come to terms. Like, I realized I believe in self-healing in the body. I believe the body has this amazing capacity of self-heal itself.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm doing everything. I'm very convinced. I'm a very positive person. I'm healthy as fuck. Like, I cannot be more healthy than this. And I was able to stop the growth of the tumor. Like, my doctors were shocked. In 3 months, it didn't grow an inch, and they were doing monthly follow-ups, and it was not spreading or anything. They were like, this is so weird. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm doing a lot of things, not the conventional medicine, but I'm doing other stuff. And then that it hit me. It's like, I need to go to chemo, and I need to do it in a way that it's supposed to be, because it's going to mean something. And the way I'm approaching chemo, the way I decided to do it, I'm doing a very specific meal plan. I'm helping my body with fasting. I had almost no side effects from chemo. And I had the red devil
like
chemo.
literally no side effects.
Like literally no nausea.
Wow.
Literally, like no, I have thought once. Like literally, I'm like, when you fast before chemo, your body, when you fast, basically your cells close, because they're like, oh my God, you're not feeding me. I cannot leave any energy out. So they just close ranks. So when you're fasting, most of your cells are very close. So when the chemo gets into the body and start running around, it cannot penetrate all the cells. So they protect themselves. And when you have a regular fasting kind of system in your life, that you do it often, your body starts building up, and then just not protecting, also regenerating, also reboosting, also rebuilding.
Like this you're telling to only cancer survivors, or everyone can follow, like the fasting thing you just said?
For the infusions, they're different kind of chemo. They're the one with the pills every day. So it's very tricky to follow. Like it's like you can just not eat forever. Like I always do it before the infusions and the day after the infusions. So my body is protecting in the moment the chemo gets into my body. And there is this whole I think I understand in that moment, it was the third click that I needed to share my process. And I still remember the day that I came out of the closet, as to say so, and I just made my first live, and I said like, so yes, I have cancer. So let's talk about this, because this is something that people just hide. And I feel that if this arrived into my life, it's for a reason. And if you are into my life and you are watching this video, it's also into your life for a reason. So there is something for you here. And that's how I started to share my journey with everyone. And right now, I have two people, like two beautiful girls, following from Vancouver and UK, that I'm trying also fasting for their chemos. And at least one of them has had a few infusions without fasting and with fasting. And I'm kind of coaching her to that, because it's very important to have a very person that knows to coach you during fasting, because you cannot just go not eating just like that. There's like certain things you have to take into account with your body. And she's doing great. And she's doing great. And she's also recovering. And then you need less shots, like pharmaceutical shots, to boost your immune system, because your body is recovering faster. And as I tell you, like almost no side effects, besides the immune system going down, and then you recover faster. And then like no other thing. Like then my doctor told me like, oh my gosh, I'm like, you're not going to be able to be on the sun. Your skin's going to be like that. You're going to have rashes, the mouth sores, the tasting, this, that. Like the list was like horrible. And then I remember the nurses were calling me the first week, like, oh, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm really good. The first week, I followed them. I took the medicines they gave me, because they were really, if you don't take me, you're going to feel even worse. And I'm like, they scared me. So I took them. I took some corticoids, and I took some anti-nauseous. I took some things to protect the stomach. But then my body was telling me, my body was rejecting them, and my body was feeling bad with it. And then when I started injecting the shots to boost the immune system, oh my gosh, I was like, I'm not having side effects from chemo, and I'm having side effects from these shots. I'm like, why I'm doing this? I'm like, how is this possible? The immune system shots, they help you to recover faster in between chemos, but the pain is unbearable. Like your back, your colon, your lungs, like your lumbar back, all this place. You have fever, you have headache, you feel like super bad. And I'm like, this is not good. How something can make you feel that bad and push your body? So I realized these shots were squeezing my body to get my immune system running. And I'm like, this has to be consequence into the future, because everything compensates in nature. You cannot be taking that much juice without taking it from somewhere else. And it felt so wrong. So I was like, wait a second, you telling me I have to take 5 shots? I'm like, no, mister, I'm not taking 5 shots. So the first chemo I took 4, the second I took 0, and then I took 1. The third one I took 2. And then I realized 2, and then I didn't took them right away. I took them half one day, half another, half one day, half another. So I wouldn't push my body too much, and I would like have time to recover in between. So it was milder. And I told my doctor about it. I was like, yeah, I had never a patient that did that. I'm like, but why don't you try a different way to do things? But they don't even consider. I also came clean with the fact that I was not taking the medicines that they gave me. And he was going to tell me something, but then I have my blood test. I have blood tests every week that like I ask, because I want to follow up all my process and I want to see how I'm doing. I'm very involved with this process, and I'm very involved with my recovery and my body.
Right.
I want to know. I also want to know if what I'm doing is working, especially. So every chemo day I have a blood test, and then every week afterwards I have another one to follow up. I have another one to follow up. So I know if what I'm doing, if the supplements are working, if my nutrition is working, if I have to reinforce something. And that's how I'm approaching it. And so far I feel I've learned so much. And as I always say to people, there's like several keys to live a process like this, and not just cancer. I think that every hardship that gets into your life, for everybody is like big in a different measure, that it is there for a reason. It's not just, oh my God, life happened and life sucks. And yet it can be so hard. It can be cancer, it can be an accident, it can be a tragedy, it can be so many things, but there's always a major, bigger purpose and a big source of growing and learning in everything. And I decided to look at this from that perspective, from growing, from becoming a better person, from like really letting things behind that were not certain anymore, and getting new ones to this new person.
Right.
So yeah, it's quite a journey, and I think it's never over. It's just different parts of it.
3 major life lessons which you yourself taught after cancer.
Oh, 3 major. There's many. Okay, let's pick 3.
Your top 3.
My top 3. The first one, without any doubt, it's self-love. It's self-love. It is. I think everybody should like realize and not just hate themselves and hate their bodies because they have cancers. Like, I never loved myself this much. I never saw myself in the mirror this pretty. I think that's why I'm taking such good care of myself, and I'm so involved in my process, because I truly, truly love myself right now in a like way that I never did before. I think that's my main reason of doing everything, than waking up, getting out of the bed every morning. Second major life lesson, everything happens for a reason. Absolutely everything happens for a reason.
Do you know your reason? I mean, why breast cancer happened? Have you found out that reason?
Yes. I did a lot of I was already doing a lot of self-work, self-development, awareness work. And when it hit me, I was like, okay, so there's still many things that I have unsolved. And I had normally this pseudoscience that is called biodescodification. It links, as I told you before, things. And normally breast cancer in the left breast is very related with motherhood issues and kids issues. And in my case, I was not having a very healthy relationship with my mom. And I was also postponing maternity for a very, very long time. And it was very like I was about to do bioresonance for a few years, and I always people will recommend me this therapy, and I was like, yeah, we'll do it later. Yeah, we'll do it later. And finally, when I had the cancer diagnosis, I just called and I was like, can I get an appointment, please? And the woman was like, what do you have? I'm like, breast cancer. And she has like, which breast? I'm like, left. Do you have issues with your mother or with motherhood? I'm like, yes. How do you know?
Oh my
So it's
God.
super interesting. Like every there is like biodescodification thing is like, there's books about it, and there's like every single thing is related with particular emotions. Your body shows you in a different way. So I start working my relationship with my mom, and I start calling her and I start talking to her, and I start like the moment I got my diagnosis, I had to block her. The relationship was so bad.
My God.
When my body showed me this, I'm like, okay, I need to heal this thing with my mom. I need to heal this relationship because it's affecting me. And then I realized it's not only in this life with my mom now. It comes like from all her mom and her mom and her mom. They all had kids very young. And I didn't. I skipped motherhood when I was supposed to biologically. So it's like so intricate, like the things I discover with this journey, it's mind blowing. And I'm like super happy to be able to share this with people and to tell them like, look, not like when things happen, when things arrive your way, whatever it is, just don't say like, oh, why this did happen to me, in terms like poor me, poor victim. No. Why is this happening to me? Look into the future. There is a reason for this. And the reason, it can be positive or negative depending on how you approach it and what you take from it. So that's basically the second major life lesson. And I think the third one will be, you don't have to do this alone. You're not alone in life if you don't want to be. And many people feel very alone, but they also, when you feel, I've been there. I've been feeling super alone. I remember like 6 years ago, I was divorcing and I was in another country, and I literally pushed away all the people in my life, and I fucked up all the relationship with my friends, and I was in a position of like being completely alone in life. And I'm like, oh my God, thanks God cancer didn't arrive in that time. And I've done so much growing, and now I have this amazing like network of people, my family is not here, my family lives abroad. And but having this system network surround you, and sharing with them, I think it also helps you a lot to go day by day. At the beginning, you asked me about like I was writing some piece of a blog later before, and about how to break the news when you get a cancer diagnosis. It was very funny because in my I remember the first 2 times that I break the news, I was still in shock, so I was laughing about it because when I get nervous, I laugh. So I basically break the news to my flatmate, laughing. I arrived from the hospital. I was like, I got cancer. And she's like, fuck. And they're like, I got cancer. I really have cancer. And she was like, this is a very bad joke. Can you please stop? Like, it's not funny. And then after 5 minutes, I realized like, okay, so yeah, it's not good to break the news when you're in shock, because you can be so high, so down. I think it's very important to like break the news to yourself. And that takes already a little bit of time. And when that's done, I try telling to the people close to me and to my family. And then I was like going around and like, I'm gonna tell you something, but don't you worry. And that just make people go crazy. It's like what doctors told to me, like not like putting you on hold, on wait, and just creating this horrible expectation, and they think it's even worse. So at the end, I was just, you know what, let's have a coffee, we get there. So you know what, I got cancer, it's okay, I have this, I'm doing this, what about you? And then I will just
like turn the right. One advice or suggestion for a lady who is going through breast cancer right now.
I think my major advice would be love yourself. Love yourself and love your body more than ever, because your body is telling you something. Don't you put hate on it. Don't you reject it. Don't you like avoid to look at it. Just embrace the message your body is giving you,
Yeah.
and ownership on your body, because it's yours. It's not the doctor's, it's not the nurse, and nobody is going to take care of that body like you are going to, because they don't have to live it.
Yes. And now the last question is, if you have to sum up the journey in just one line, what it would be?
If you what, sorry?
Sum up the journey in just one line.
I'm gonna have the most like cheesy line ever.
That's okay.
I think it's all about the journey and not the destination.
Yeah.
It's all about the journey. It's all about every single day, and not about, like, many people start this journey thinking when it's going to be over. And basically they disconnect from it, and I think it's very rich, and it's all about the journey, and the lessons you're getting every day are like
Yes. Okay then. Thank you for your valuable time. I'm sure this session really motivates people out there who have traveled or been traveling through cancer. It was lovely having you here today. Once again, thank you so much.